Hi guys, now that the Tories have selected their new leader, the next question, apart from does anyone actually care, is who will make up the shadow cabinet? This was the point that Laura Kuenssberg raised when she spoke to Chris Mason on our podcast. Now, as Badenoch is on the right of the party and will see the greatest split taking place not between her and the One Nation Tories, but between her faction and Robert Jenrick's, will she give some of his supporters seats in her shadow cabinet? But considering how few Tories were returned at the last election and how many big names are gone, who would really want to be part of this shadow cabinet?
Do we have an expectation of the kind of team that she wants to put together?
The instinct from Kemi Badenoch is to go broad in terms of her appointments. In other words, acknowledge the breadth of view within the Conservative Parliamentary Party rather than, if you like, the more Liz Truss-esque model, which was to build a cabinet in her own image. The current expectation is that there won't suddenly be a flurry of shadow cabinet appointments. We're not expecting any today. I was even steered away from necessarily any tomorrow, or whether they can resist that temptation as the weekend goes on, not least because the news agenda is going to flip stateside within a couple of days, isn't it? So they might be tempted, I wonder, a little later this weekend to do a little more of it. They'll certainly have the main players in place, I'm told, in time for a shadow cabinet meeting on Tuesday.
Okay. Who would want to be part of this cabinet? Now, it seems on the surface that Kemi Badenoch wants to unite the party. She wants to bring people from the One Nation faction of the Conservative Party and Robert Jenrick's people together, and her own people and her own supporters. Bring all of these together, and she probably decide to dish out some shadow cabinet positions to them to, of course, unite the party. But there are a number of problems with this. You don't want somebody in your shadow cabinet who is more competent than you are, because they will, of course, be looking to replace you. See, if there's somebody, you want somebody who's ambitious enough, who's competent enough, who's going to work with you to reinforce you, but not undermine you and not leapfrog you to a position of leader. So it's unlikely she's going to put somebody like Robert Jenrick into her shadow cabinet. Now, it's possible, but I think it would be a bad idea because he wants to replace her eventually. So in order to keep him at bay, keep him as far away from power as possible, keep him on the back benches, that would be, I think, a good move. Because if you put him into a position like shadow immigration or whatever, he's going to shine there, and of course he's going to boost his image. But then the other side is you can't put on people who are incompetent because they're not going to serve you very well, and they're not going to challenge or try to hold the government to account. So you want to have people who are competent but not overly confident. You don't want to have people who are going to outshine the leader. And you also want people who have some sort of ability and some sort of name recognition. And I think it's going to be difficult for her, because who wants to be part of something that may only last a few months or maybe last a year? So it's possible she's going to end up with Tories who see being the shadow minister or whatever as a stepping stone to something better. Or maybe they're just filling in some time, passing some time in this shadow administration, hoping for the next big thing to come along. But then you don't want people like that because they're not going to put in the effort necessary. They're not going to challenge the government or hold them to account. So once again, we'll have to wait and see. Probably on Tuesday, as they pointed out here, there should be a cabinet, a full shadow cabinet in place. But who is going to be put into it is going to be very interesting to watch, because is she going to surround herself with loyalists where she can control these people, or is she going to try and reach out to the rest of the party, people who disagreed with her, and welcome them in? Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.